In the vast depths of the galaxy, the Galactic Empire ruled over every planet like a dark shadow, crushing any resistance that dared to rise against it. Against this overwhelming force, only a handful of brave souls remained standing. One of them was Princess Kaela. She was the last hope for her people, determined to do whatever it took to overthrow this oppressive regime. However, she had neither an army nor enough strength to wage war. While she had devised strategies to fight the Empire, it wasn't enough on its own. She needed a solution, or her people would be completely wiped out by the Empire's devastating armies. In one of the fiercest battles of the Galactic War, there was a human soldier captured by the Empire. He was being held in a prison camp and would soon be sent to a firing squad. Humans were legendary for their combat abilities, known for their ruthless training and sharp intellect. Kaela knew that she had to free this soldier. Perhaps he was the key ally she was looking for. Kaela moved silently with a small but skilled group of rebels. As they neared the Empire's prison camp, she reviewed her plan once more in her mind. Kaela and her soldiers intended to plant bombs strategically around the camp to disable the security systems. This would create a major distraction and give them enough time to infiltrate. After a long night, the moment had come. A massive fireball exploded in the sky, echoing over the camp's security walls. Kaela, seizing the chaos, advanced with her team. As they moved swiftly through the dark corridors, they saw that the guards were unprepared for a sudden attack. A few quick laser bursts and silent blade strikes took them down swiftly. As they approached the dungeon area, Kaela noticed the dark figure behind the bars. The prisoner, as expected, was chained inside his cell. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Kaela, holding the control panel, opened the bars. With a metallic hiss, the door slid open, and she stepped inside. "Who are you?" the man asked, his voice filled with both curiosity and cold caution. Kaela, without breaking eye contact, replied, "Kaela, I'm a rebel fighting against the Empire. I can get you out of here, but I need your help in return." The human soldier, named Coren, looked at her with suspicion. The weariness of battle and years of experience were immediately evident in him. "Why me? I have nothing to do with your war. The Empire already destroyed my people." Kaela's eyes gleamed. "You're a soldier. A warrior. The Empire is destroying every planet, enslaving peoples, turning children into slaves. If we don't act now, the next to fall won't just be your planet, but the entire galaxy. I need your combat skills. Together, we can win this war." Coren remained silent for a moment. Kaela's gaze was filled with determination. He knew the Empire's cruelty, but his internal desire for revenge pushed him to take action. "If I get out, I owe you nothing. This is much bigger than my war," Coren said. Kaela tilted her head, accepting the challenge in his words. As Coren and Kaela exited the cells together, the Empire's soldiers began regrouping all over the camp. They had heard of their escape, and patrol units were quickly closing off every corridor. But Kaela and her team had planned their escape well in advance. A laser gate stood in their path, and Coren had to find a way to bypass it. "We need to disable the security lock," Kaela said. Coren quickly examined the panel beside the gate. "Give me a few minutes," he muttered. Just then, they heard footsteps behind them. A group of Empire soldiers was approaching fast. Kaela and the others immediately took positions. "Cover me," Kaela whispered. "We've only got a few seconds." Empire soldiers rounded the corner with their laser guns drawn. The first shot hit the wall next to Kaela's left side, followed by a series of rapid bursts. Kaela and her men quickly returned fire, their laser beams lighting up the dark corridor. As the firefight intensified, Kaela's team shifted positions rapidly, keeping the enemy suppressed. Amid the chaos, Coren remained calm, working on the panel to unlock the gate. He entered the final code, and the laser gate slid open with a sharp hiss. "The gate's open," he shouted. Kaela fired a few more shots, then quickly retreated, and together they rushed through the open gate. Kaela and Coren had escaped the cold walls of the Imperial dungeons after a grueling journey, but the battle had only just begun. Kaela's plan was to reconnect with old allies in exile and rally them to form a massive resistance force against the Empire. Fear spread by the Empire had scattered these once powerful armies, sending them into exile. Reuniting them wouldn't be easy, Years of frustration and loss had left deep scars on the hearts of these warriors. Kaela and Coren headed toward Vastara, once the capital of the Resistance, now an abandoned wasteland. Vastara was a strategically important planet, known for its rich mineral deposits and military bases. But after being ruthlessly pillaged by the Empire, it had turned into a massive graveyard. The rebels had turned it into a hidden base, surviving in the vast tunnels they'd built underground. Kaela opened her worn holographic map, showing it to Coren. Most of the exiled armies are hiding here. The others are being constantly monitored by the Empire. But if we can gather them again, we can overthrow the Empire. Coren frowned as he looked at the map. Most of the bases marked here are destroyed. The rest are just ruins. Are you sure we'll find an army here? Kaela's eyes burned with stubborn determination. They haven't given up. They've been hiding for years, but they're ready to fight. All we need is the right strategy and leadership. That's why I need you. When they arrived at Vastara, reaching the underground tunnels wasn't easy. The Empire still patrolled the planet with their troops, and any movement on the surface was instantly detected. Under the cover of night, Kaela and Coren managed to reach the old tunnels. But as soon as they descended, they realized they had walked into a trap. Footsteps echoed through the tunnels, signaling the presence of rebels lying in wait. Suddenly, a beam of light appeared to Kaela's right. A group of rebels pointed their weapons at them, stopping them in their tracks. The leader, an old man with a gray beard and a face weathered by years of battle, approached Kaela. "Who are you?" he asked sternly. "You can't enter these tunnels without permission." Kaela stepped forward, raising her hands. "I am Kaela, the princess of the Resistance. I've come to reunite you. We are forming an alliance to overthrow the Empire." The leader eyed Kaela with suspicion, his gaze piercing through her. "You'll have to prove you're the princess. Because we abandoned the fight long ago. There is no hope against the Empire." At that moment, one of the soldiers noticed Coren. He recognized him instantly, for Coren's reputation as a warrior had become legendary across the galaxy. "Is that Coren?" the soldier asked, wide-eyed. The other rebels stared in disbelief. Coren's feats of bravery in battle had made his name known far and wide. Coren spoke in a low voice. "If you know me, you know I don't fight without a cause. The Empire may be powerful, but they have weaknesses too. Under Kaela's leadership, we can defeat them." The battle begins. The rebel leader thought for a few moments before nodding. "Very well. If you truly believe you can bring down the Empire, we'll stand with you." Following that conversation, the underground base sprang into action. The rebels' weapons, long unused, were still operational. Kaela and Coren quickly organized the army. But the Empire's scout ships had already detected the activity. The sky above Vastara darkened as Imperial attack ships appeared on the horizon. The enormous vessels began firing high-tech laser cannons into the ground, aiming at the underground base. While Kaela hurried to plan an escape route through the tunnels, Coren took up a defensive position with the soldiers. Enemy troops began infiltrating through the narrow exits of the tunnels. Coren pulled out his laser rifle and fired, taking down an Imperial soldier. Meanwhile, Kaela commanded the rebels to assume defensive positions. The tunnels lit up with laser beams, explosions echoed through the walls, and rocks tumbled from the ceilings. Coren and a group of soldiers held their ground in a narrow passage. "We have to hold this position," he shouted as the rebels fired round after round to repel the enemy. While the soldiers fought, Kaela was deep in thought, planning the next move. A blast shook the walls, causing the exit at the far end of the corridor to collapse. As the dust cleared, more enemy soldiers flooded into the gap. Coren, showing his mastery of close-quarters combat, dispatched the Imperial soldiers one by one. When his laser gun wasn't enough, he relied on his blades. He parried an enemy attack and drove his knife into the weak spot of their armor. Meanwhile, Kaela directed the battle from a strategic position deep within Vastara. The narrow layout of the tunnels worked to their advantage. She ordered missiles to be launched to prevent enemy ships from landing and had traps laid throughout the underground labyrinth. The battle raged on for hours. The Empire's forces had superior technology, but the rebels used the maze-like structure of the tunnels to their advantage, leading the enemy into traps. With each passing minute, the Imperial troops grew more exhausted and suffered heavier losses. Kaela and Coren's coordination was flawless. Kaela's intellect allowed her to choose the right strategic points, while Coren commanded the troops on the battlefield like a true leader. After repelling the enemy's final assault wave, Coren retreated to Kaela's side. "Did we do it?" Coren asked, drenched in sweat. Kaela smiled slightly. "Yes, we managed to stop them here." The battle on Vastara proved that the Empire had underestimated the resistance. But Kaela and Coren's journey was far from over. The exiled armies still needed to be rallied, and a path to the heart of the Empire had to be forged. After the grueling battle on Vastara, Kaela and Coren had successfully reignited the rebellion against the Empire. However, their victory on Vastara was just one step. Rallying their exiled forces would not be enough to deal a decisive blow to the Empire's power. Their next move was to march toward the heart of the Empire, the galactic capital, Zarion. Kaela had assumed command of the rebel forces regrouping in Vastara's underground base. The rebels were buoyed by their victory, but they expected the Empire to return with overwhelming force at any moment. Kaela and Coren knew they had to strengthen the rebellion even further and devise new plans. Gathered with a group of the rebellion's most skilled strategists, Kaela studied the galactic map. Zarion was the most heavily fortified planet in the Empire, and an attack on it seemed almost suicidal. But Kaela's eyes focused on a weak point in their defenses. "The Imperial fleet is currently deployed to another war zone," Kaela said, pointing to a specific region. "This gives us a rare opportunity to strike at Zarion." Coren looked at her thoughtfully. "The fleet may be elsewhere, but Zarion still has the strongest defenses in the Empire. If we attack, there's almost no chance of coming back." A look of stubborn resolve crossed Kaela's face. "The Empire always expects us to retreat. But this time, we'll hit them where they least expect it. While part of our exiled forces infiltrates Zarion, the rest will strike their main base. We'll divide their attention and attack when they're at their weakest." A few days after finalizing the plan, the rebel forces moved out. Kaela, Coren, and an elite group of fighters secretly infiltrated the imperial capital of Zarion. Using highly advanced undetectable ships, the small team reached Zarion and were met with a breathtaking sight. The planet was surrounded by towering defense structures that stretched beyond the atmosphere and protected by energy shields guarded by part of the Imperial fleet. The city below glittered with technological marvels, but behind this beauty lay the shadow of tyranny. Kaela and her team successfully infiltrated Zarion's underground tunnels. As they moved through the tunnels, Coren quietly issued orders to the team. "We move without being seen. The slightest mistake could jeopardize the entire operation." The tunnels were dark and narrow, resembling a labyrinth. But Kaela, guided by secret maps from Zarion's ancient people, found the correct path. These tunnels had been dug long ago by citizens trying to escape the Empire's oppression, but they had been abandoned for years. Now, they were being revived for the rebellion's most critical operation. Having successfully infiltrated Zarion's most strategic locations, the team targeted the massive generators powering the planet's energy shields. If these generators were destroyed, Zarion's shields would fall, and the rebel fleet would be able to launch a direct attack. Kaela and Coren positioned their soldiers while preparing to breach the Empire's massive control room. But just as they were about to proceed, something unexpected happened. They were detected by Imperial guards at one of the tunnel entrances. Alarms blared, and the underground corridors were suddenly bathed in red light. Kaela quickly made a decision. "Everyone, take your positions. We need to get through this." As the guards advanced rapidly, Kaela's team immediately engaged in combat. The first wave of attacks came in the form of intense laser fire. Kaela took cover behind a wall and shouted to her soldiers, "Fire at will. Stop them." Coren, with expert marksmanship, targeted a guard and took him down with his first shot. As the battle intensified, the narrow tunnels neutralized the advantage of the Empire's superior numbers. No matter how many guards there were, they couldn't easily advance through the confined spaces. As Kaela's team pushed forward to break through the enemy's defensive line, explosions began to shake the tunnels. After taking down a guard, Kaela turned to Coren. "We can't waste too much time here. We need to reach the generators." Coren, drawing his sword and engaging in close combat, responded, "Hold them off. I'm going ahead. Ignoring the enemy fire, Coren rushed toward the generator room while Kaela and the others continued battling the remaining guards. The explosions echoed through the tunnels, turning the underground into a virtual hell. But Kaela never lost focus on the objective, continuing to direct the fight with precision. When Coren reached the generator room, his eyes locked onto a massive machine. These generators were among the most crucial components powering Xerion's energy shields. According to Kaela's plan, disabling these generators would allow the rebel fleet to launch a direct assault on the planet, leaving the Imperial forces defenseless. As Coren quickly planted an explosive device, the last of the guards entered the room. A fierce firefight ensued, and Coren, after taking down one soldier, shot the remaining enemies with his laser gun. "Kaela, we're ready to blow the generator," he shouted into his comm. Kaela, having taken down the last of the guards in the tunnels, replied over the comm, "Everyone, fall back. The explosion is imminent." The team quickly evacuated the generator room and moved to a safe distance. As Coren initiated the countdown, everyone held their breath. A few seconds later, a massive explosion rocked the tunnels. Xerion's energy shields collapsed, and the rebel fleet above immediately launched their attack. As Kaela and Coren emerged from Xerion's underground and onto the surface, they watched the unfolding battle above. The rebel fleet had engaged the Imperial ships, and with the Empire's shields down, the rebels now had the upper hand. I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, see you in the next story.